player form, and it remembers what I did last time, so I leave everything the way it is, and click Add. Scaffolds a view for me. This particular view, what I'm going to do here, and you have to remember, this view is going to be shared between adding and editing. But with that said, the first thing I need to do is add my model reference, which is this. Now, the title of the page, what to call this. It could either be Add Player or Edit Player. And I don't know which one I'm going to choose for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say here model.title. And let the view model determine that. But in order for this to work, I need to go back to my view model class and add that property in. So we'll do that here now. I'm going to go in, add public string title. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this a field which will return one of two things depending upon the ID of the object. If the ID is not 0, I'm editing a player. Otherwise, I'm creating a new player. So this shorthand notation will return, when you ask for the title, it will return edit player or new player depending on the value of ID. So that little trick is what I'm using for the player form, which I'll go back to, and now the appropriate title will appear in the view. Next step. The name of the page, again, header, we'll use the same approach here, model.title. Now what I want to do in this page is make a form. So to do that, I'm going to use the HTML helper method called beginForm. In this particular case, a form is an element with contents inside of it. So I'm going to make a using statement and begin the form here, and then enclose braces below it so that I can put the contents in it. So what goes in my form? Well, first, before that, let's take a look at beginForm. This is going to be a HTML form, which, when submitted, is going to go to the player's controller and the save action. It will send to that action method, by default, a player object. So all we have to do is inside of the form, we need to put all of the attributes of a player in here and bind them to the model, specifically the property. So to do this, we're going to need to go back to our view model class. And we're going to have to create attributes for all of our player attributes in our player class so that we can map text boxes to each property. So we already have ID, we have rank, what we need is a name. So I'm going to add that in here now. So public string name, get set, and I'm going to annotate this as a required property. Now we have team, or teams I should say. We also need the team ID, which can be null, so make that nullable. And this particular attribute is going to be required, so the user can't leave this form without specifying a name, a rank, a team ID, which will be done using a combo box. Now, not only is this required, but when we display the combo box on the form, we don't want it to say enter the team ID. We want it to say pick a team. So I'm going to change the display so when this view comes up, it's going to identify this attribute as team as opposed to team ID, because I want this to appear. I want basically to make a drop list. And when the user picks a team, I want the ID to be selected and used. But above the drop box, I don't want it to say team ID. I want it to say team. So you'll see how this gets used here shortly. But that's there now. Now, this is looking good. I think I've got everything covered. So let's go back to the view and continue where we left off. So first of all, I'm going to create a label text box combination for the name of the player. So to do that, we add a label for with the name attribute mapped using M to identify our model. Then we have a text box for the name, which comes after it, putting that text box into the form control class, which will style it the right way. And then we want to provide a validation message in case they forget to put the name in, and that's what this third line will do for us. Now I need to do the same thing for the rank. So I'm going to add another section of controls for the name, for the rank, as you can see. And then I want to do the same thing for the team, but for the team it's a little different. For the team we want to make a drop-down list. So we still want the label, and it's for team ID, notice that. So this label would normally say team ID, but because of the way that we specified the attribute to show team instead of team ID, that will work properly for us. Now, the drop-down list is for team ID ultimately. That's what we want from the user. To get it, we're going to display a select list which displays all of the teams by their name. But when the user picks a name, we're going to get the ID. And that's what's going to be mapped into our model. We're going to add to the first element of this list box, we're going to have a select team, which is a placeholder telling the user they have to do something, which is select team. It has no value, so it won't, if they don't select the team, the ID would be 0, or actually it would be null. And we said that the ID can't be null when we set up our VModel class, which we did here. So we don't have to worry about that issue. All right, so going back to the view, we style it as a form control class, and here's our validation message for the combo box, or list box, whatever you want to call it. It's really the list or drop list. Now the last thing we want to do, actually two more things we want to do. We want to add to our form a hidden element that keeps track of the ID of the player. This is especially important when we go to edit the player as opposed to a new player. And then the last thing we want is a submit button, which is pretty standard. This will, when clicked, post the form to the appropriate controller and action method. So this takes care of the new player capability. Now, since this form can be used, this view can be used for new and edit, I'm going to take you back to the player's controller, and let's do the edit action. New is taken care of. Now, edit will be almost identical to new. So I'm going to take the same code in new and place it over here with edit. However, there are a couple differences. First of all, the first thing we want to do is this ID is presented to us, and the assumption is that that ID is valid. But we don't want to make that assumption. We want to test it. So we add a line of code in here to look up the player to see if we can find a match. So we need to do that. And we also need the player object and all of its attributes for editing, because we want those data to populate when the view comes up, because when they're editing, I want to see all of that stuff initially. But first of all, before we go any further, if it turns out that the player was not found, what we can do here is return a redirect. And we can redirect the user to the index action of the player controller, which will basically, if something goes wrong here, we're going to just shove them right back to the index page. Otherwise, we move forward. And since they're editing, we are not going to set the rank equal to 1. We're going to set it equal to the actual player object's rank. And we also need to do this for the ID and the name. So these are binding the properties to the view so that they appear in the view when it's brought up. I'm going to put the ID first because that's a better order here to present. Then I'll put name second. Rank third. We also need the teams. We still need that. And then we need a team ID so that we can bind the player's team in, which will be team ID, like that. So that gives us all the attributes of the player and teams for the view to populate the drop list. And that should take care of the edit case. Now we can test this out. Let's go up to the index and put our cursor there. So when we run this program, it will start us at that particular view. So we'll do that here and see what we get. Okay, so here is our index view. Now if I go to create player, we have a brand new view, which is everything is empty. I can type in some things here. I don't pick a rank. Now, saving hasn't been implemented yet. So if I hit save, it's going to not function properly. So for now, I'm going to ignore the save. Just looking at the functionality, I'm able to type in a name and a rank. This says team, not team ID, and I can see my teams below. I'm going to look at the edit case as well. I'm going to click one of these, and you can see it populates with the name, rank, and team. Test another one here, Road Rangers, and it looks like it's working. So that takes care of players and create player and editing player. So basically now we have to deal with saving, which is done when you click save here, and we need to take care of deleting. So we have two more actions we need to handle, and we'll do those two actions in the next video. We'll see you then.